This is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games.
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
Anthony for three. Bang!
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen, and sports fans alike? You're listening to the Ruckus and The Menace podcast. I'm Stanley the Menace.
And I'm Ruckus, always causing a ruckus. You know me.
And on this episode of the Ruckus and The Menace podcast, we have a major announcement for our primetime game that will be coming with another set of videos. Our starting lineup and recapping the NBA and NHL playoffs up to this point, including live updates on the games currently being played. We will be getting into our good, bad, and ugly as normal. We will be highlighting the NFL rule changes that are going on in the high heat. Playing buy, sell, or hold with our color commentary, and then closing it out with our studs and duds of the week. Ruckus, how we doing?
Well, I've been sitting pretty for the most part, playing a little bit of Battlefield, kind of closed out the season that is about to end in a couple weeks for Season 4. Season 5 comes out June 6th, for people wondering, for Battlefield 2042. I'm kind of looking forward to it, but at the same time, I just don't care. I've been kind of burnt out on Battlefield, so I played a little Resident Evil 2 remake this weekend, and it's been a lot of fun. Other than that, I've also been kind of practicing for our primetime matchup. But yeah, as far as shows I've been watching, Bob's Burgers, I've been watching that. I've been thinking about rewatching the show Entourage. That was on HBO at one point. Adrian Griner was the main star, with Turtle and Johnny Drama.
Well, you had Jeremy Piven as well in that.
Yep,
as well.
Ari Gold as Jeremy Piven as Ari Gold. Very good character, I would say. If you feel like watching highlights of Ari Gold from Entourage, please do so with headphones and away from your children, because there are some choice words that he says. Anyways, Spence, what have you been up to?
Well, I have been on the grindstone, pretty much working most of this week. I get 2 days off for the next 2 days. Woot. Been squeezing time with Jedi Survivor and some MLB The Show in tuning up, keeping that sharp. Having time with my wife. We've been watching season 3 of Tournament of Champions, the Guy Fieri. And on my own, really, because I've completed most of my other shows, still been keeping up with Ted Lasso. But really, I mean, Memorial Day wasn't bad. Pretty much, even though I've had work, I've also had time with family, both sides of it. So that was
Honestly, same.
Yeah. But now I get to rest up for a couple of days off and just prepare for what's next. But getting to what's next, we're going to go right into the primetime game piece of business. This week's primetime game is not going to be done as a recorded segment for the podcast for the listening audience.
So
this will be for our YouTube audience.
Yeah,
this will be for our YouTube audience, as our primetime game will be the Bomb Squad Battle.
Yep.
Ruckus and I decided to kind of do, or I should say, Ruckus decided I just kind of needed to roll along with it because couldn't think of another challenge type squad type thing before that.
Well, I also
But we will be
realized that I realized that our prime time from last time got a lot of traction, and I figured we could add more to it by doing another one of those challenges more recent rather than later, because I don't know if we really want to do like a yearly thing where we do that. I would rather it be like every once in a while, but not all the time. But
Yeah.
it definitely adds a change of pace. Anyways, go ahead, Spanish. Sorry.
Yep. So the only piece of information that Ruckus and I will have unveiled for this that will be for the listening audience will be our starting lineups and whether or not we have a captain boost on. Because MLB The Show 23 has the captain mechanic where you can boost up certain pieces of your lineup if you have a captain and meet requirements. So Ruckus, the question is, do you have a captain and will it be boosting anything?
Have captains, but they don't boost anything because I think one of them's on the bench and the other ones are pitchers.
Well,
Do you want me?
Well, here's the thing about pitching captains. Pitching captains, if you meet the requirements and you apply the boost, the pitching captain does not have to be in the lineup. He just has to be on the roster.
I don't know whether or not they were applied, but I'm just gonna say I have a captain on the bench and two
You just have captains on the bench, but you're probably not going to have
crap.
anything.
I just realized that I have two captains. My bad.
Well, you have captains on the bench, but they're probably not going to boost anything.
Likely correct. Do you want me to go over my lineup really quick while we're at it?
I will give you a heads up that yes, I do have a captain, and he will be boosting. I will be taking advantage of the mechanic, and I actually will be taking advantage of the highest tier of that mechanic as soon as I unlock one person for my rotation.
So is it cool if I
Well, let's go through the formula for this. We will be playing mini season style, so it will be 5 games or 3 inning games, best of 5. So every starting pitcher will get used. Unlike last year, or unlike back in March with MLB 22, that we ended up doing 7 inning games, best of 3.
Right.
We're gonna do 3 inning games, best of 5, and this allows us to sideboard a little bit with the bench if we feel like it in between game 1, game 2.
It'll also be quicker. So if we want to do a part 1 or 2 of a video, we could. But yeah.
Yep.
It all depends on results.
Yep. All right, and so Ruckus, I will let you go first.
All right. So at catcher, I have Jonah Heim, the monthly Jonah Heim for April. I have Ricky Henderson, the charisma card, for left field. I have my center fielder is Brandon Nimmo, which is a tops now. Brandon Nimmo, he is a freaking rock star. And speaking of rock stars, I got my third baseman, also Fantasy Baseball League roster guy, Matt Chapman, the April monthly Matt Chapman, the 99 Diamond. I got the Jared Kelenic, April monthly 97 Diamond left fielder. And then my second baseman is Mookie Betts. And usually you don't think of Mookie as a second baseman, but he can play it, but his primary position is right field. As for my shortstop, I have Marcus Semien. And then my designated hitter is Reggie Jackson. And then finally, my first baseman is George Brett. That is my starting lineup.
Making change here. Yeah, that will work. All right. Making a couple of little last bit adjustments here because I'm actually changing a player around.
He's
Okay,
going the distance. He's going for speed.
So, leading off for me will be my center fielder of Jung-Hoo Lee from the World Baseball Classic Series.
Who now?
Jung-Hoo Lee.
Who now?
Yeah, he does not have a team.
Who now?
Batting second for me, the second base will be my second baseman, Craig Biggio. Batting third will be my another world base so it's Christmas Series Craig Biggio. Batting third for me will be my another World Baseball Classic Series in Munetaka Murakami. Batting fourth for me will be and Munetaka Murakami will be playing third base. Batting fourth will be the. Actually, do I want this? I'm actually going to do this. Batting fourth will be my right field. Batting fourth will be my right fielder, James Outman, from the monthly awards program. Batting fifth will be my shortstop from the World Baseball Classic set of friend and actually first season one boss. Munetaka Murakami was the season one boss as well, but another season one boss will be my shortstop, and that is Francisco Lindor. Batting sixth will be Charisma Series Jeff McNeil. Batting seventh will be monthly awards Jared Kalenic. Batting eighth will be monthly awards series Jonah Heim. And batting ninth will be my World Baseball Classic Kensuke Kondo.
I heard that he owns a condo somewhere.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I have a lot of World Baseball Classic talent. Couple of Charisma, monthly awards. And then really just a lot of my stuff is going to be around 97 overall. So that has worked out to a great amount. And I personally am kind of stoked for this just simply because we're both running the same catcher.
Yeah.
I think we're
and
running
that can
the same
change
catcher.
also, but I mean,
Yeah.
Jonah Heim's pretty good for the monthly anyways.
Yeah, I mean, we're both running Jonah Heim, we're both running Jared Kalenic. I ended up with a little bit more. You ended up choosing to run Reggie. I was very much contemplating Reggie as well.
Dude, he is like the frickin' Hammer of Dawn.
I mean, I picked the smooth hitting contact and vision of Jeff McNeil. Then really I don't have. But then I've done one thing that you normally don't see me have. You normally would see me have a little bit more base stealing dynamic. I don't have a lot of that in this lineup. I have a little bit. but I don't have a lot.
I mean, that's just from your lineup rather than your bench and whatnot. So it could be you haven't revealed that, neither have I, but we'll leave that for later.
I don't have much. Like, even with my bench, I'll tell you right now, I don't have. I mean, I've got one. That's it. I'm not really sitting with that much.
All right. Do you want to talk about what's going on in the NBA as the game just finally ended?
Well, I wasn't too sure if we wanted to start with the NBA or the NHL, but since the NBA one just broke, our NBA Finals has now been set. With the starting, kind of going into our starting lineup here. The first major piece of NBA news that we do want to talk about is that the 76ers have selected Nick Nurse to be their head coach. Nick Nurse, of course, another NBA champion coach with the Toronto Raptors. And I think he could do okay there. I think it's just it's funny irony that one of those teams that Kawhi notably had that one buzzer beater shot was the Sixers, and now Nick Nurse is going there. That had a little bit of intrigue and shock value. But we now officially have. But then to the real matters, the final bit starts with the Eastern. Do we want to start with the Eastern Conference as the team that just got there, or do we want to start with the Western Conference, who we kind of had happen just as we wrapped up last week?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like the Eastern Conference is more interesting. The Western Conference is self-explanatory.
Well, that's because the Nuggets made the NBA Finals for the first time. And I did spoil one element of our good this week with saying that.
That's okay.
Pretty much as we wrapped up around recording time, Aaron Gordon swatted away a game-tying last-second shot attempt by LeBron James to sweep the Lakers 113-111. All five Nuggets scorers scored in double figures, and Nikola Jokic had a 30, 14, and 13 triple-double. 30 points, 14 boards, 13 assists. But the big breaking news of it all is that tonight, history has been thwarted. And here's how we got here. As of last week, the Miami Heat had a 3-0 series lead on the Boston Celtics. Now, notably, when this has happened in other sports, in the NHL, this has only been completed 4 times. In baseball, this has only been completed once, as far as coming all the way back. Of course, the only team to do it in baseball was in 2004 with the Boston Red Sox. The last couple of times it's been done in hockey. So it hasn't been done since about 2011. And the Celtics almost did it. They staved off elimination for the first time, winning 116-199 in Game 4. There were 6 Celtics in double figures, Tatum leading the way with 33 points. Boston survived again in Game 5, winning 110-97, thriving off of 16 three-pointers. 4 Celtics scored 20-plus, with Derek White leading the way with 24. In Game 6 on Saturday night, Derek White put in the game-winning layup, to give Boston a 104-103 victory to force Game 7 and put the Celtics just that single game away. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo were kept in check as Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown outscored them 57-35. However, tonight as of this recording, Miami has won the series 4-3 and will be taking on the Denver Nuggets in the NBA Finals with a 103-84 victory. Jimmy Butler and Caleb Martin leading the way with 28 and 26 points respectively. Martin played 45 minutes, Jimmy Butler played 43, and Bam Adebayo played 43, despite Bam only having 12 points. But the biggest thing that comes out of really looking at this, looking at the stat sheet and looking at the box score, Jason Tatum had played 42 minutes, had a double-double of only 14 points and 11 rebounds. That's kind of not normal for Tatum, as Tatum had been scoring on a tear throughout much of this series, but he was limited to 5 out of 13 shooting.
Due to injury, though, too.
Oh, wait. When did he get hurt?
He got hurt in Game 7, the game that they just lost. He rolled his ankle, but he eventually got back, but he wasn't himself when it came to shooting threes. But at the beginning of the game, they were very poor at shooting threes. I believe they were like 5 for 40 or something like that, or 5 for 20. I don't know.
They finished at 9 for 42, which is
Oof.
not normal for them. Not normal for them, but they kind of lived and died by the three. They kind of spent a little bit more of like, it's kind of that live by the sword, die by the sword. That's exactly what the three-pointer is in basketball. We've seen that too many times, no matter which level of basketball you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I was going to have the whole, like, it was like Tatum with his ankle. It was like, it wasn't like the Paul Pierce thing where it was like he meant his, where he ended up temporarily going to the hospital.
Yeah, but I feel like times were different then, too. I feel like nowadays players are agile, but it is what it is. Alright, so when it comes to the NHL, so, speaking of...
That series has also now gone final.
So, the Golden Knights versus the Stars. The Golden Knights literally brought stars to Dallas's eyes as they literally got murdered by the Golden Knights 6-0 after they put up a little bit of a fight. They get murdered. So in the first game, or Game 3, it was 4-0 Golden Knights as Jonathan Marchalt of the Knights had the first goal. Then it was Ivan Barbashev, I believe that's how it's pronounced, of the Knights, second goal of the game of Game 3. And then William Carrier of the Knights, third goal of Game 3. All these goals in the first period. And then Alex Bartangelo of the Knights had the final goal of the night in the second period to give the Knights a 3-0 lead in the semis. And then William Karlsson.
You mean the series?
Yeah, lead in the semis series. Yeah. And then William Karlsson of the Knights, first goal of Game 4. And
I mean, basically, the Knights blanked them.
You could say it was a golden opportunity for the Knights. As far as the Panthers Hurricanes, though, the Panthers, Sam Reinhart scored the lone goal for the Panthers to secure Game 3 in the second period of play. And then it was all Panthers for the most part. You had Anthony Duclair with one goal in Game 4. And then you had Matthew Tkachuk of the Panthers with 2 goals in Game 4. And then you had Ryan Lomberg of the Panthers with 1 goal in Game 4. Even though Game 4 was 4-3 Panthers. And
Tkachuk sent pretty much his second goal of Game 4 put them was a winner with about 5 seconds left.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Spennis, for the extra info. I appreciate it. But yeah, that was pretty much it. It's crazy how both the NHL playoffs ended and also the NBA playoffs when it comes to like the main stuff has ended. I mean, you still have the finals. The NHL still has the Stanley Cup, which still needs some Dawn dish soap to clean up from the last people that have won it.
And the interesting thing about both finals, and this is another thing that's good in sports this week as we transition to our Eastwood segment, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Is that this good?
Whoa, whoa. Sorry, I had to add that.
Is that the good of this week also goes to the city of Miami, as both the Panthers and Heat are in championship scenarios.
Miami Vice! White hot. Am I right or no?
Oh, well, that was one of the Miami Heat jersey themes back when LeBron was there.
Dude, Shaq over there being like, ooh, like in the Hot Ones episode where he eats that hot wing and then he goes, ooh. If you don't believe me, understand what I'm saying right now, listeners, just look up
I know of Hot Ones.
Just look up Shaq, and then you'll probably see a gif of him going ooh whenever he eats a hot wing from Hot Ones. Anyways, go ahead, Spanish. Sorry, my bad.
But where we're at here is that our two goods this week involve the Denver Nuggets going to the finals for the first time in franchise history. I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights, it is the second time in their 6-year history for the Stanley Cup. And then the city of Miami. But then what was not so good in sports this week, Ruckus?
Jimmy Garoppolo, the new Las Vegas Raider, is in the shop as he has taken Derek Carr's place in the shop with his surgery holding back the Raiders after contract was signed recently. Or actually, it was probably like a little bit ago, but he is now getting the surgery.
I think there's a clause in his contract even that says that the Raiders could cut him. So he may not even play a game.
Well, if he doesn't play, he could still be on like Full House or something like that. John Stamos is getting old. He could just fill in and no one would notice. Someone would be like, hey, didn't you play for the 49ers at one point? You'd be like, shut up, and then you just put him in a chokehold and then kill him.
I can't believe you just compared Jimmy Garoppolo to Uncle Jesse of Full House.
They look alike, so kill me.
Of all the people that you would think that he looks like,
name another that looks like John Stamos.
Was not Stamos.
Okay, what does he look like then?
I wasn't going to go Stamos.
Okay, what does it look like then?
I mean, pulling up. I mean,
Okay, if you look up Jimmy
It's
G
a-
and then you look up John Stamos, they look pretty similar. You can't deny that.
yeah, that is. Yeah, that actually. Yeah, there is too much meme. Yeah, there is memes on. It says John Stamos plus Jonathan Bennett equals Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, you were like, oh, I don't know about that. Let me look it up. Like, dude, Mary-Kate and Ashley could figure out that stuff, like, from a mile away. Like, come on, man. Come on! Skip!
I mean,
Skip! Anyways.
it's like, man, I can't. Like, of all the people, like it was just one of those things where I'm just like, of all the people, of all the people that I thought you would have said, that I thought you would have like thrown out there, it was a weird theory.
What did you assume I was going to
Though
put
it
out
looks like
there?
it worked. Though it looked like it worked. I mean, I never really saw anything as far as like Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy Garofalo? I don't know.
Oh, but the ugly this week involves the Arizona Cardinals as this ugly is just ouch, because this is ugly for their team, is a $22.6 million dead cap hit that they took to release DeAndre Hopkins. That just stings, because 22.6 million could get you probably very well two players on minimums,
I mean,
if not more. If not more.
to be honest, if he was gonna be dead weight anyways, they probably would rather go with someone else that for cheaper anyways. So the fact that they killed him off of his contract, yes, they took the dead weight for that. I mean, would you rather have DeAndre Hopkins on your team if you're looking to rebuild and or looking to reconfigure things? Because they still have Kyler Murray, but yes, he has his torn Achilles injury they suffered later in the season, but you're still having to suffer the consequences of not having DeAndre Hopkins like fuel your wide receiver room, because the only one that's left now is Hollywood Brown from last season. So
Yeah.
good luck, Cardinals. Good luck. Anyways,
Yeah, I do like that. That's exactly what you would think of, but at the same time, you could get yourself a pretty decent wide receiver for that much, if not less. I mean, it does hurt.
it hurt when Tyreek Hill got traded from the Chiefs to the Dolphins, but now I just
But
realized that it was easy.
that's a like there's a difference between that being a cap hit,
Right.
like
Of
a cap
course.
hit that you're taking from getting rid of a player versus dispensing away a player that you're not that you may have to pay part of the salary, but at least it's part of it.
It was better than paying like 25 to 30 million a year to a guy that was, like in that sense, cuz like DeAndre was getting paid what, like
I think
22 million.
it was 30 it would have been 30 million had he stayed. But it was a
Okay.
22.6 22 point I think 8 million of it I think they still paid him. But that's just a sign that I think Arizona let or held on to him for too long.
Yeah.
and they just couldn't score a deal at the draft.
Well, it
to
would have
ship
looked.
him away.
Wouldn't they be having a dead cap of more if they would have cut him whenever he had that 6-game suspension or whatever? Like, wouldn't it have been kind of like the tale of Deshaun Watson in a sense, without like the weirdo scenario? Like, in a sense where like, because Deshaun was mainly like what 12-game suspension, and then DeAndre had 6 games. So wouldn't that have been a thing where if DeAndre signed somewhere else during a dead cap, it would have been like he would have had to serve those 6 games
He would have had
after
to
he
serve those
signed.
games. He would have had to serve those games, but
when he signs with the team, wouldn't he have to serve it after he signs with that team, depending on whenever they signed? So like,
depending on when he was signed, yeah. But
so like
no,
if they pulled an
he had already.
so if they pulled like an Odell like halfway through the season, which is like what
He
week
would have had to have
8?
served. He would have had to have served the games. Yes.
So
He had
then
to have
they
served
wouldn't
served
have
the
gotten
games
him
regardless.
to like week 14 or something like that, in a sense. So like
Yeah,
if
but
it was
that's
week
if
8,
Arizona would have cut him. That's if Arizona would have cut him at the beginning.
right?
But DeAndre Hopkins is not undergoing a 6-game suspension right now.
I was just
He's
wondering as far as technicality, but yeah, I see how things go. Are we ready for?
Yeah, let's get into the high heat where we talk about the NFL's rule changes.
I
And
will explain them.
I'll let you.
All right. So the one of the NFL rule changes right now is clubs have 30 days to make changes to scheduling a move up or flex of primetime games later in the season from week 12 to 17. And this is mainly for Thursday night games. Emergency quarterback has been added as a 49th player to the 48 players that can suit up on the field. Player must be on the active roster though in order for this emergency quarterback to take effect. So like, let's say you have your main quarterback and then you have your backup. Let's say your backup gets hurt. Well, what do? Well, you can have that emergency quarterback as your 49th, and as long as they're on the active roster, you should be good to go. This is mainly because of what happened in San Francisco, where they had Purdy, and then they had Josh Jackson, and then they had no one else. I mean, they could have gone with Christian McCaffrey, but God knows how that would have gone. So that's how that rule's going. There is a new kickoff rule that is fairly controversial. And this one is the ball will be placed at the 25-yard line when a returner calls for a fair catch inside his own 25-yard line. The kickoff return rate will decrease from 38 to 31%, and the concussion rate will drop 15% due to the approved proposal. And this is a source from Yahoo Sports, as it's also related to something that was trending with Tommy Townsend being unhappy with that rule. But mainly, the main point is the ball will be placed at the 25-yard line when a returner calls for a fair catch.
Okay. So to kind of start out here. The new kickoff rule, this is more so due to a player safety issue, not really a gameplay issue.
Right.
So I think that this in the long run would be good, but I really would love to see eventually this onside kick 4th and 15 rule be there so that if they get it, the offenses can retain the ball. offenses can retain the ball. I would love to see that come in at some point to kind of make the offense, like if the offenses are rolling, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw teams try and do this, but I think it would have to come with a caveat that you could only do it within like the last 2 minutes of the game or something like that. It'd have to come in
the fourth
the arms.
down.
Yeah, it'd have to come with a caveat because too many teams would try and take advantage of it. Or figure out some sort of way to take advantage of it. But I love the emergency quarterback thing because that could have benefited the 49ers. The 30 days for the flex scheduling. It lets the season work itself out for the early going. But it may be this may not be the most fan friendly out of the bunch.
I mean, it gives them more time to like prepare for it, because like there were times where like it'd be like a week notice or maybe even less than that for a game that was like supposed to be in Mexico that later was moved to Los Angeles, like the Mexico game that was supposed to be the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Rams, which was the most iconic Monday Night Football game in NFL history, but still was moved to the Coliseum instead of Mexico because of I think it was like a hurricane or a typhoon or something. It was some weather-related
issue. Yeah. Yeah, and you don't simply have the altitude train, but it's like, oh, you've got 30 days, like, at least there's more time to allow for it if there's certain teams that are doing well and certain teams that are stinking up the joint.
Yeah.
I honestly would love to say the less primetime games Washington has, the better. I just would like to... And the reason why is because Washington does not have a great history of playing in primetime. The problem is we're going to have a primetime game this year no matter what.
Hey, at least you don't have Dan Schneider at the helm anymore. Thank God.
Well, still pending league approval, but... But Dan Snyder is no longer at the control. But now we go straight into the color commentary, where it is buy, sell, or hold. And the first one that we will have, we mentioned earlier, with DeAndre Hopkins. As there are multiple possibilities of where he may be a decent to good fit. And once I get the...
I think for one of the possibilities, and even other news outlets are saying the same, is DeAndre Hopkins going to the Chiefs. I think that could be a decent fit, but we don't know for how much, or if it's just like a one-year deal, kind of like Juju had last year.
Well, here's where I think, and the team that I see possibly landing him is, I think it's a sleeper. I think there's a sleeper team that I think nobody's really talking about that I think could legitimately have a shot. It's the Detroit Lions. I think it is the Detroit Lions. Now, hear me out. The Lions are not the strongest playoff contending team.
Right.
But they are one. The Lions have been have their pretty much the guy that's supposed to be their number 2 guy out for 6 games right now due to a gambling suspension.
So it's currently 6 weeks.
Yeah, so it's a 6-game suspension for Jamison Williams. The opportunity and the opening is there. The problem is Hopkins needs to take less money no matter where he goes. No matter where he goes, he's going to have to take less money. And if I remember this correctly, yep, he is, and he turns 31 here in just about a week. Just about a week and a half. He's a week and a half from being 31. So he is on the wrong side of 30. So he's going to have to take a pay cut, and a significant one, just to make it. Just to make it with the team. But I think if you really want to talk about a great fit that could get him into the playoffs, I think the Lions would be able to push him over. I mean, granted that the Chiefs would be an automatic thing and give him a leader in the receiver room, but I think that's a pipe dream.
I feel like it's kind of a pipe dream for the Lions in a sense because, like, you used to have DJ Chark, but he's now gone.
That's opportunity.
Jamison Williams is out for 6 games, so you really only have Hopkins. And who else?
Amon-Ra St. Brown, anybody?
Yeah, but like even
you
when
have
Saint...
Amon-Ra,
okay,
Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Wasn't he like there for like a couple weeks and then hurt though?
I mean, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is still the number 1 receiver in Detroit.
But for how long until he gets hurt? Because once they're hurt, they can't play or they can't show up to the best of their ability. So
that kind of that just screams open door.
But how open do you want this door to be to where it becomes a flood or a leak of some sort? Because I feel like Hopkins
what for opportunity?
I think it's too much. I think it's too much.
That the opportunity might be too big.
I think the opportunity might be a little much because it's kind of like this. It's kind of like if you go into a new environment and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this one job, and then it's like, oh, you have another responsibility that's another thing. Oh, and then this other thing. Okay, well now you have 1 to 2 to 3 different things that you're doing. Well, can DeAndre Hopkins do 3 different things at the same time? Maybe, but is he mainly known for like a vertical guy that can go up and do that spectacular catch? Yes. But can you trust that he'll also be able to do that in a aspect of being 100% all the time? Because he does still have injury issues. He had a knee injury or ankle injury near the end of the season last season that he's dealing with. Do the Lions have a staff that can monitor that effectively and in a timely manner? Because
I mean, you have those wild card factors.
Because the Chiefs with Juju last season, when it was after the AFC Championship game, that Juju even said to himself and the reporters that he could not walk after the AFC Championship game, but somehow managed to do so when he got to the Super Bowl. Could you imagine DeAndre Hopkins with the Chiefs and also being fairly healthy for most of the time, or at least had the staff that could get you there with Hopkins? I think Hopkins kind of like restores a little bit, but also has better help when it comes to the training step and whatnot compared to the Lions. I think he's a sitting duck in Detroit, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you're thinking he could possibly be a sitting duck. I'm thinking you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins on that opposite side, who has been known for being a very reliable receiver with great hands.
When
The
he's
kind
healthy.
Oh yeah.
Because, here's the thing. With the Chiefs, you have all these rookie guys, but they're not all really known. But when it comes to DeAndre Hopkins, even if he isn't healthy, he can still, direct and teach the young guys how to do things.
And
When
this
it,
is why Detroit is a better fit, is because you have young guys to teach.
but what if you become, anyways?
I mean, that's still. I'm also seeing that Buffalo's a possibility. That's scary.
I think that'd be kind of interesting to see how Diggs would feel, but obviously Diggs was trying to get out of there after what happened against the Bengals.
Well, that's
Or at least
probably
he was upset, I should say.
I think you could be I think that you basically could handle that situation there in Buffalo with a little more grace because Josh Allen had been dealing with like a bad elbow.
Well, the defense was really beat up too, and that's why they
I
didn't do
mean,
so
that
well against the
defense was beat up
Bengals.
too, but I'm talking as far as getting Diggs the rock.
But how do you get Diggs the rock if the defense of the Bengals was kicking your ass for the whole game? Yes, the Bengals offense was putting a can of whoop ass on the Bills the whole game, and they even did that on the game that Damar Hamlin got seriously injured to the point where people
But
thought he was
I
going to
was
die.
talking the accuracy of Josh Allen's passes.
I feel like it wasn't affected too much though. I think it
I
was
mean,
more so.
it may not have been directly affected in the Bengals game, but there were games throughout the season where that was an issue.
I think it was more so pressure rather than his arm, though. I think his arm was still fine. It was more so that the accuracy when it came to people getting in his face was definitely a big hit. I don't think it was his arm. I think his arm was still gonna be a frickin' bazooka no matter what. Those kind of arms end up having to be concealed due to the U.S. government permits. Like my man Josh Allen over here, if he had a freaking bazooka of an arm, like they would have they would have to put him under some Secret Service type thing to make sure that he's legally around. You know what I'm saying? Even with that injury or whatever that happened, I think it didn't phase him. I think the pressure got to him. Because Sauce Gardner with the Jets got to him.
Well,
And
Sauce Gardner is almost like an anomaly. Probably going to end up being the second coming of Darrell Revis.
I'm just saying,
At this
I don't think it was just the arm. I think it was more so the pressure. Because Mahomes dealt with that stuff a couple seasons ago, and we know the horrors of that. And Allen is young and still figuring that out, and he hasn't even gotten his or not rookie contract. He hasn't gotten his main contract yet, the big bucks contract,
The big money deal, yeah.
and neither has Joe Burrow, as I'm aware. But
Burrow is going to be the quarterback that sits.
But yeah. Anyways, do we want to go to the next question?
Yep, the next one here. The next one here in buy, sell, or hold. So basically, you're buying into the Chiefs. I am buying more into the Lions, but I will kind of hold on just like wherever Hopkins ends up really going, if he even goes anywhere at all. For the
Yeah, we
Baltimore
don't know.
Orioles, are you buying, selling, or holding stock on this one as the youth movement in Baltimore has been showing effectiveness, but there has been some growing pains
I
that have
think
been going.
I think I buy it because they're like trying to compete with the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Rays have been kind of still maneuvering around, but I feel like they're going to somewhat crumble in a sense, like cool down a little bit, but not fully like crumble into tiny pieces. I think the Orioles, if they keep up what they're doing with the youth movement, but also the veterans of the group still like produce enough to where the youth movement can still produce, I think they'll be okay. I buy in when it comes to the Orioles because they're doing pretty damn good.
I think I've already bought into this thing pretty much since the end of last year. So I am not really in a buy situation in buying more. I'm more in a hold what I have. Because they've still got a lot of young talent coming up.
Dude, Grayson Rodriguez is the only guy that like has been brought down back to AAA or the minors just in general. Everyone else, like, you still have Gunnar Henderson over there. You still have
You still have Adley Rushman.
yes
You've got
sir.
Jackson Holiday coming up the ranks as a top 5 prospect. The Orioles have multiple prospects in the top 100.
Mhm. Like the
So
Orioles
that
have a lot of potential, and I
yeah, the
still
Orioles
think
have a
benefit a lot. I just
and the
think they need
Orioles
to keep it
also
up.
have yeah, the Orioles have a lot of stuff, and they could even do a minor amount of adjusting and selling a little bit of the farm. They could sell a touch of the farm and get a veteran player if they need to. Like they have that kind of farm system.
Kind of like how
It
the Padres did, or a little bit less.
as far as the quality, I think the Orioles have more. But as far as the quality that you would want to sell, I don't think you go overboard. I don't think you go overboard
So would
in
you say the
complete.
Orioles would be equivalent to like the Dodgers of their farm systems, or would you say they're not even in the same league?
Remember what I said here. Quality, the quality of what you want, the quality of the farm that they have is very high. It's almost like what the Mariners had.
Okay.
The Mariners had a quality farm system and they decided to kind of mortgage that. Like they sold the farm. The Orioles, I think they're probably going to look more to hold the farm, probably,
Which is
and get
fine.
and really make waves with a movement that is of a young team.
I was more so just curious what your thoughts were on the farm system between the Dodgers and the Orioles, because over the years, like I've seen like rookies come out of the Dodgers farm system, and they're like, "Oh, this is the best farm system ever." But I didn't know if it compared to the Orioles farm system at all, because you make it sound like the Orioles farm system was pretty good. That's why I was curious.
The Orioles have drafted extremely well in getting the right pieces for their farm system. And the Orioles kind of really do a lot of selling away players for prospects anyway.
Yeah.
And next up, we talk about the San Diego Padres. Um, in the West, the players are starting to gel a little bit, but they may have a slow start that comes back to haunt them because the Diamondbacks are ahead of them. The Diamondbacks and the Giants are ahead.
Which adds insult to injury to the Padres recently. Juan Soto was out of the lineup, I think today or yesterday, with back tightness. So
Yeah.
who knows if he's gonna go back on a cold streak or go back to what he was doing before. But before he was put on the injury list, or I don't even think he was on the injury list. I think it was like a day-to-day thing. He was looking pretty good, and he hit back-to-back homers with Fernando Tatis Jr. In fact, I think the Padres as a whole, I'd buy into it because a lot of talent is being utilized, but when it comes to other players being down, the other talent is like stepping up and doing what it needs to do in order for the team to win. I mean, it's still a lot, but I think it's a buy-in because it's still early in the season.
I'm selling. I actually will sell. I'm actually going to sell on the Padres at this point. And here's why. The Padres are 24 and 29 right now. And they have their next series are with the Marlins, the Cubs, and the Mariners. Then they have a 3-game set with the Rockies. If they do not manage to run the table with all 3 of their leading series, and the Rockies manage to play good baseball, which, if we really want to break down the Rockies at this point, the Rockies are just are really a whole game behind because they're just 2 losses. The Rockies have played more games. But the Rockies also have a tough stretch with the Diamondbacks. They have the Diamondbacks, the Royals, and the Giants. And the Diamondbacks are playing great baseball right now. Even though the Diamondbacks just lost the series with the Red Sox. But the Red Sox are in the best division in baseball. So the Padres could end up being in last place in the NL West, especially if Colorado gets into a stretch where they play well. And they could be well out of range of the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and maybe the Giants if they get into too much trouble. I think it's a sell. I think you're going to sell now, and then I would sell now. Catch it when the stock is a little bit lower, and then the Padres start to gel even further than where they're at. That's when you buy. So I'd be selling stock on them now. The next team we're going to be talking about here is the New York Mets. The team has spent a ton of money over the last couple of years. After a tough break in the playoffs last season, the Mets are now currently sitting in the middle of the pack of the NL East. Buying, selling, or holding stock.
I'm gonna hold because they still have potential, but I don't know if I'm gonna buy anymore because the Mets, they have the talent, they just need to come through, and I'm gonna hold because it's early in the season, yes, but also you have Pete Alonso still hitting dingers, and they're estimating that he would hit 60 this season, but I think it'll be more than that.
Sell, sell, sell. I am selling. And here's why. The Mets have a brutal next 12. They have a 3-game set with the Phillies, a 3-game set with the Blue Jays, a 3-game set with the Braves, a 3-game set with the Pirates, and then if you stretch it out even further, there is a 2-game Subway Series with the Yankees. That is what the Mets' next 14 games are. The two with the Yankees are at home and starting with a homestand with in a 5-game homestand with the Cardinals. There's a 6-game homestand with the Phillies and Blue Jays, followed by a 5-game road trip with the Braves and the Pirates. The Braves are playing like one of the best teams in baseball right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Padres have cooled off a little bit, but the NL Central is not necessarily a contender's market. The Yankees are the Yankees, and the Blue Jays are in that AL beast. Like, it's that bruising AL East that's yet to do a whole lot of beating up on each other. So that for me, I think I'm gonna sell on the Mets. I'm gonna sell on the Mets just simply because there's just not a lot right now to kind of buy in because it's a little bit of a tough stretch.
Yeah.
A little bit tough sledding ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's something for you. And I'm just going to explain this as like just a weird thing. Is it weird that we're approaching June and the Red Sox have not had a single series against the New York Yankees? But there's 2 3-game sets in June.
You know, I figured
this
it
new
was going to happen.
Yeah, this new scheduling structure does set up for that, but it just feels weird.
Haven't they only played the Blue Jays and Orioles though?
They have played we've played the Blue Jays, the Orioles. I think we've had. No, they've had games against the Rays too. They just have not played They haven't played the Yankees at any point.
That's weird because like usually, like games when it comes to AL,
there's always one in April. There's always one in April or May.
Right, because like I know like with the AL Central from time to time, I've noticed that like when you face like other teams in different divisions, like the East or like the West or whatever, like you at least face them like once a year, but usually when it's like interdivisional stuff, it's like pretty often.
Okay, so, and our last team that we're going to be talking about here is the LA Angels. A team that has been down bad the last couple of seasons and now has a winning record at 29-26. Granted, it is 4th in the AL West, as you do have the Astros and the Rangers ahead of them, but they match percentage with the Mariners. Do we buy, sell, or hold that the Angels can hang on or even hang around and prevent a potential fire sale?
I'm going to go ahead.
That could involve a Shohei Ohtani or even certain other guys like an Anthony Rendon.
I'm gonna say sell because here's the deal, man. If they end up not doing as planned, there's already sweepstakes of Ohtani going to other teams. Trout is injury prone. He has that like back kind of injury where it's like it's just a time over time kind of deal where it's going to deteriorate and or just get worse over time. You have young talent that isn't really proven all that much, and with that it doesn't help. I mean, like, you still have Rendon and those other guys, but like they haven't set it to the point of where Trout and Ohtani did at one point. And that's saying a lot because Trout, for the most part, has been injury prone, even before like diagnosis of his back that happened last year. I think you sell.
I do think you sell on the Angels, yes. But I think it will be due to I think this stretch that's coming up ahead. They have the White Sox, so there's a little bit of relief to start out, but it is only a 2-game set. Then you have a 4-game set with Houston in Houston. Then they go to a homestand that involves the Angels, the Mariners, and then a road trip that involves the Rangers for 4. And granted, it does have 2 against the Kansas City Royals, and then you finish out the bulk of the month of June. Then as you get into the 3rd week of June, they have a 2-game set with the Dodgers. I think that stretch will be these next 3 weeks will be the point that tests the Angels' mettle. If they get through it and they win over half of them, they might be okay. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see something happen in the deadline that involves either that may involve, if they get into the fire sale situation, of maybe getting rid of a Taylor Ward or Hunter Renfroe could be something, or Patrick Sandoval. Like any of these other players that may not be Shohei Ohtani. If Shohei Ohtani does go into the fire sale, he's going to go to a contender.
That's for sure.
A contender is going to say, "Here's the farm. Take it. We will trade you these magic beans for a cow, hoping you get a stalk." There are some times where you trade away the cow and the magic beans do pay off. But there are times where you trade for the cow and the magic beans don't. And more oftentimes then, the cow doesn't pay off. If you're getting where I'm going with this.
Yep.
I mean, basically what the Orioles done has been, okay, they'll trade away a cow, but now we're starting to see where the magic beans that they have traded for have paid off.
Yep. Are we ready for our Sunday?
Meanwhile, the Padres right now have kind of had some issues with Juan Soto at the moment, but the Nationals have also not necessarily panned out with a bunch of magic beans either.
Yeah. Gore is pretty much the only one that I've noticed has done pretty well there with the Nationals.
All right, and now we go to our stud and dud.
You want me to start?
Go ahead.
All right, for my stud this week, I have Michael Massey with his first walk-off hit of his career. Woo woo! Michael Massey of the Royals. And then for my dud, I have Section 5 Class B1 Championship, which I believe was like, I don't understand how that works, but anyways, the championship game.
So is this high school?
It seems like it. So, Section 5 Class B1 Championship ends with Inside the Park Pass Ball Walk-Off by Palmek. But that's not the best part of it. The best part is the uniforms of both teams were both red as well, which makes this dud even better.
Wait. So you're telling me that... All right, so Palmac... All right. I'm looking this up to kind of see what this looks like.
So one of the team, so Palmec is the team that ended up
Yeah,
striking
Hornell
out.
and Palmac.
Uh-huh.
But this is...
I didn't know if it was minor league or if it was just like high school or whatever, but I still thought it was funny that like they struck out, but they didn't tag the guy, and he ended up pretty much running all the way through from first, second to third to home, and making an inside the park walk off just based on the fact that the other team did not tag the man that just struck out. They just assumed that, oh, they won the game, but really in technicality they lost because the other team.
Oh, the biggest thing was the only way you could tell the difference was the pants.
Yeah,
and that over celebration is a disease.
I just thought it was funny that for the honorable mention for the dud that they were both wearing red, so it was very confusing. Anyways, what do you got, Spennis?
All right, so my stud for this week goes to former Red Sox and now Phillies closer Craig Kimbrell, becoming the 8th pitcher and second one this season, along with current Red Sox Kenley Jansen, who did this back on May 10th, to accrue 400 career saves. Some of those other legendary pitchers that had that involve Mariano Rivera and Trevor Hoffman. So they've joined the 400 save club. And my dud, yes, I'm going right after it here with the Yankees. The Yankees manager, Ron Boone, for done messing up with the umpires and getting suspended for having spats with them. Yes. I mean, Aaron Boone is normally known for being an outspoken umpire, but you done messed up, Ron.
Yo, Ron! Alright, you want me to end it?
Yeah, well, and that'll do it for the Ruckus and the Menace podcast, episode number 56. Keep up with us here throughout the week as we will be releasing the primetime game footage later on this week, as we've yet to record it, but we will be at it.
It'll probably be later on this week, probably like Thursday, Friday, we'll see. Anyways, we'll see you later. Thank you for listening to the Ruckus and Menace Sports Podcast. I am Ruckus.
And I'm Stanley the Menace.
See y'all later.
Deuces.